Okay. We will continue reading the Hatha Yoga Pradipika about the first Pranayama exercise. What you learned in the first session, you should now completely forget. Because Nadi Sodhana Pranayama begins now. What we did in the first session was just practice. Sutra 8, Chapter 2 of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Taking energy in through the Pingala, the interior should be slowly filled with energy. Performing Kumbhaka as prescribed, it should then be released through Ida. Can you follow this? Can you follow? Can you, knowing what you know now, would you be able, without my explanation, to do this? Swadharma doesn't make it easy on purpose. What did he say? Take energy in through the Pingala. Then release through Ida. Can you follow that? Pingala is the channel responsible for Shakti energy. That is how we know that it's energy in through the bottom. In the previous exercise, he said, take energy in through the moon and release through the sun. But to cause confusion, he uses another concept now. Take energy in through Pingala. Pingala is the energy that is responsible for Shakti energy going from the bottom to the top. Then, after the retention, you release energy through Ida. That can only be Shiva, and so that can only be at the bottom. Shakti in, Shiva out. Familiar? Sucking up water through the anus and expelling it. Exactly the same. Only with a structure. Inflow, in this case of Shakti, counting to 12. Retention, Kumbhaka, counting to 48. Outflow, counting to 24. Outflow of Shiva, followed by another retention. I use red for Shakti, blue for Shiva. Actually, to keep things simple, do not think too much about Shiva and Shakti. Sometimes people ask, yeah, I took energy in at the bottom, but how do I know if it's Shiva or Shakti? Didn't I take in the wrong energy? No, it's impossible. All you have to do is focus on energy. If you take energy through the bottom, it can only be Shakti. So you do not have to worry about, is it Shiva or is it Shakti? Am I doing it right or wrong? No, you don't have to. Keep it simple. Energy in through the bottom, energy out through the bottom. Sutra 9. Energy should then be drawn in by the same entrance through which release was made. Then, having retained the energy to the utmost, it should be released by the other, slowly and never fast. Forget about the text between brackets, square brackets. Sometimes it helps, often it is confusing. Let in Shiva through the entrance or the channel through which you let out energy. Shiva in, and then having retained the energy to the utmost, it should be released by the other, slowly and never fast. Confusing, eh? Slowly and never fast. I explained that before the break. If you rush, it has no impact. If you do it slowly and focused, it has more effect. So he will keep emphasizing that you should not rush it. In between square brackets, the last sentence, it said, as it will diminish the energy of the body. This is an interpretation and a translation from a text around 1,000 years old that has been written and rewritten, and the meaning has gone lost a little bit. But if you reinterpret it based on what we know now, it should be released by the other slowly and never fast, as it will diminish the effect of the energy, the effect of the exercise. It doesn't diminish the energy of the body. We have lots of energy or lack energy. But when you do an exercise, it doesn't diminish the energy of the body, it diminishes the effect of the exercise if you rush it. So let me draw a separate model for that so that we can write the text also. Bindu. Swallowing a piece of cloth, energy in, taking the piece of cloth out, energy out. Inflow counting to 12, inflow of what? Shiva energy. Retention 48, outflow of what? Shakti energy. And a retention. Again, we are looking at a remarkable logic here, if you understand what it is all about. When we started with Dauti, we actually started with the second cycle. But the first cycle doesn't start with Dauti, it starts with Vashti. It starts with increasing Shakti. What is the logic there? A human being has an inherent tendency to be in a tamas condition. So first you get a kick in the butt with the first cycle, increasing not only Shakti, but reducing Shiva, which then leads to the tamas condition being destroyed, leading to rajas, away from the condensation of energy that naturally occurs. But then you add the second cycle, you take in Shiva, and you let out Shakti. What this does is not lead to another tamas after having destroyed it first. It leads to a very nice sattva. The more than after the one cycle that you did before the break, your concentration on nada will become even more intense after this. You will be more calm, peaceful, more focused, and therefore there is more energy, more intensity. Before the break, Prachi asked if we do this multiple times. You don't. Just once. And you do it slowly, gradually. And when you're done, the remainder of the time, you use to concentrate on nada. Why do you not fill the whole 25 minutes by repeating this cycle, this exercise? It's like with asana. When you do asana, you need to take time to stand still. Simply allow the energy to settle down and become sattvic. The effect of the exercise happens after it's done. In asana, also with pranayama. It's also the reason why the kumbhaka is 4 times as long as the inflow and twice as long as the outflow. Inflow is the easiest. A human being likes to receive. So taking in energy is the easiest. The most important stage, where the energy settles down and finds its way, is the longest. Why is outflow twice as long as inflow? Because we like to receive, but we don't like to give. Because of ego. That's a theory. Some people like to give, of course. But inflow is simply easier than outflow. So it's twice as long. And then another long retention to allow the effect to take place. And when you're done with both of these cycles, while you concentrate on nada, all of this falls into place, comes together. Okay? I think we have one sutra left, in which Fatmarama will try to throw sand in your eyes again. Sutra 10. If the energy is drawn in by the Ida, it is ordained that it should be released by the other Pingala. If drawn in through the Pingala, then having retained it, it should be released through the left. Those who have perfected themselves in Yama by continually practicing energy control, by continually practicing, according to these instructions, through the right and left channels, have their nadis purified in not less than 3 months. Sutra 10 is a confirmation of 8 and 9, compressing both cycles into one sutra, just using other concepts again to add to the confusion if you don't know what you're looking at. Questions?
So this is Nadi, Sodhana, Pranayama?
Yes, those 2 cycles.
Okay. So we have to close one nostril and
No!
nothing like only
No.
imagination.
No, don't breathe. If you do this, breath control, you will die. You cannot hold your breath so long.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with breathing or with your nostrils. You can do that in your own time or in another yoga class. Here, in cycle 1, you take in Shakti energy, retention, and you expel Shiva energy, retention. The second cycle, Shiva in, retention, Shakti out, retention.
And this 12 and 48 count is with mantra. Om.
Yes, to help you to count slow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That will be very long. It's difficult to do.
You have 25 minutes. You have to, of course, stay within that time limit. At home, you can count slower and take 40 minutes or 50 minutes if you like.
No, the thing is, breathe in for more than 12 counts or even till 12 counts. It's very difficult. If we are inhaling,
Yeah, but you're not inhaling and exhaling.
it's just imagination. Yeah.
You're breathing naturally.
Okay.
This is not about breathing, don't forget. Give it the benefit of the doubt. Let me tell you something that I usually tell the students when we discuss this subject about the value of pranayama, proven value. Not scientifically, but when I started teaching yoga in a structured way, and the word was out on the internet, some people visited our studio in Itaewon looking for a solution. Solution to chronic diseases. The one was dealing with atopy, a skin disease, which was, they think it was caused by a structural flaw. That girl was missing a vertebra in the lower back. So she had long legs and a short upper body, relatively. She was born like that. And since she was born, she had this skin disease. It was very serious. She visited me in the summer wearing a turtleneck. She had huge rashes on her arms, neck, all over her body basically. She was in her early 30s and she was a yoga teacher. She became a yoga teacher by default. This is what happened. She was born like that, and atopy is a terrible skin disease, especially when it's so serious as it was with her. It's an inflammation that causes incredible itch. And that itch is so strong that you just scratch it until it bleeds, because the pain is easier to stand than the itch. So since she was born, that is what she's been doing. That's what her parents have been dealing with. So they have traveled the whole country trying to find a cure. They tried hospitals, clinics. They went to the most famous hospitals, the ones that have a reputation of being the best in Korea, like Samsung or Yonsei or what have you, Seoul National University Hospital. They tried everything. What doctors do is they give cream and steroids and what have you that suppress the symptoms but do not heal the problem. They do not, the medicines oppress the symptoms but cannot heal the disease. They tried everything up to traditional medicine, quackery, which is dangerous, but so desperate they would just try anything and everything. And in the end, she started practicing yoga. Now, yoga gave a little bit of relief, which motivated her to practice more. Because she practiced more, very regularly, because she's very motivated to practice, because it made her feel better, she then made it her job. But she kept having the rashes. But she had read, based on her 30 years of experience and reading anything that she could put her hands on about her disease, she knew that there must be something in yoga that can help her. But she didn't find it. And then, in her quest, trying everything, she was even willing to come to Magic Pond and try what we have to offer. Chronic disease like atopy and bone diseases like rheumatism are caused by an overall lack of energy. Both Shiva and Shakti levels are down. They think in her case it was caused by the missing vertebra. My assessment of her condition was that she was very gloomy, very tamas, very and based upon what I have experienced and learned with Ajita, that was my assessment. She is lacking in both energies. So immediately I taught her one-on-one how to do pranayama, because she came to us to deal with her disease, not to learn yoga, but to deal with her disease. So before it even was on the schedule, I taught her pranayama, and she started doing it not every day, but twice every day. And the turtleneck very soon disappeared. The rashes became smaller and smaller. And one day she came to me and she said, "Ron, my mom insisted that I thank you heartily, because for the first time since I was born, the whole family has been able to sleep through the whole night without me waking up in pain and in agony." So that was an incredible achievement. She had tried everything, she had done a lot of yoga, asana and breathing exercises and what have you, but it was the real pranayama that made the difference. Because it is a structural problem, she has to continue doing it all her life. Because the moment that she becomes lazy and doesn't practice, the rashes become bigger. So it doesn't cure the problem, but it diminishes it by, I cannot give a number, but let's say by 90 or 95%. And it makes life livable. It doesn't dominate her day and night anymore. That's one example. The other example is a Vietnamese lady, a very busy lady, her husband was a diplomat with three kids. All of them were boys. Boys are much more difficult than girls for some reason. I don't understand why. Very, very busy. Very young boys, so very busy. And also in her early 30s, mid 30s, and the same process. She had tried everything and anything up to quackery, and then started practicing yoga. She had a very serious form of spinal rheumatism at a very young age. And I had exactly the same feeling with her as I had with the girl with atopy. Very gloomy, dark, and she could even be very nasty, cynical, because of her pain. And she told me one day, I hate to go to bed. And I scratched my head and I said, wait a minute. When you go to bed and you sleep, you don't have pain. She said, I know, but I dread the moment that my eyes open again. So painful. So she went through life being drugged, heavy painkillers. There is no medicine for that, because again, the issue is low levels of energy. And she was very tamas, like the girl with atopy. So also in her case, I taught her pranayama before the other students learned it by following the schedule. And she totally transformed. The difference between day and night. She started pranking me, joking in the class, dancing. She, from a little gray, dark, almost dead bird, she became like a just amazing, like a songbird, and same story. She was able to get rid of all the medicine, and but same story. The moment she gets lazy, and everybody does, even if the need is very high, there are things that distract you so that you feel disturbed in your routine and you skip a couple of days of practice, the pain comes back with a vengeance. So she will have to practice until the end of her days. And while in the other girl, the cause of the low energy seems to be the lack or the missing vertebra in the lower back, in her case, I've never been able to find out what was the cause of her low level of energy. But it's both Shiva and Shakti being at a low level. So, there is just, if you're a scientist, a medical doctor, and you believe in what we do, you could set up a research project, and like we read about the experiment that they did with women wanting to become pregnant. They could take a group of 100 people with rheumatism, divide them in two, teach one half pranayama, and the other half you teach breath control. Without letting them know what they are doing and what the purpose of the research is, of course, so that they are not imagining things, and then see how it works out. For me, I have proof enough that it really works. And this brings us to a point that is kind of ironic, because people who are healthy do not realize how valuable yoga in general and pranayama in particular is. Why? Because you're healthy. You practice your exercises and, well, okay, it feels good, but you do not see such a huge benefit as when you are in terrible pain and suffering all your life, and then finding something that diminishes that suffering considerably to a very large extent. So it's a luxury problem. We're healthy. We do an exercise. We are willing to accept that it works, but I do not really feel that much, actually. But it is those kind of experiences with people who have tried everything in the medical world and the alternative world, I should say, and then found real pranayama and actually had, compared to everything else that they tried, had a huge benefit from that, have been hugely helped by that. So just so you know, I'd like to suggest that you give it the benefit of the doubt and practice on a daily basis, at least for a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If you don't feel anything, okay, then forget about it. But other than telling you these kind of things, there's no more that I can do to convince you of the value of pranayama done in this way. The only way to become convinced is by proving it to yourself by practicing on a regular basis. Okay, let's just give it a try.